Community Radio.
Okay, ayan. Good morning ulit, everyone. Hi, I'm Lester Babiera from First Bike Ride. I'll be today's moderator for the morning panel where we'll be talking about cycling and its influence in the urban environment. So we only have 1 hour to discuss things. And madami tayong pwedeng pag-usapan about it eh. And we have here some panelists who will discuss their insights based on their experience and knowledge cycling around Metro Manila. So there are so many cyclists in Metro Manila even before the pandemic. Merong mga bike commuters, merong people who bike for errands, for leisure. But during the community quarantine, mas naging evident siya because of sa sobrang daming cyclists on the road. And at the same time, nakita nyo naman na merong bike lanes na sa Metro Manila. Pero like what I said, even before, madami na talagang nagbabike sa Metro Manila. Every city, meron silang kanya-kanyang mga cycling cultures. Halimbawa, in Marikina, very bike-friendly na yung lugar na yun. Kahit dati pa, sa Valenzuela, nagbabike na rin yung mga tao. Like in the southern Metro Manila, meron ding cycling culture. Like for example, sobrang daming road bikers doon. And even around the different cities, nagbabike commute na yung mga tao. So today, we have Eli Go Tian, a young transport planner and a bike commuter. Yes. We also have Rowhe Siy. Siya yung woman behind the mobility advocacy page, Mobile in Manila. And then we have King Urieta from Valenzuela's Parks and Open Spaces Office. And we have Arts Serrano, an architect who's very much interested with the design in the cities, urban design. So, ayun, my first question will goes to Eli. So Eli, with your experience as a transport planner and a bike commuter, is it really possible to champion and include biking to our cities, considering our current roads, the culture, and the systems?
Okay, Mike. Okay. It's weird not being in front of a screen. So, is it possible to champion this here in Metro Manila and in the whole Philippines? I think it's very much possible. I think you always just need the full support of the national, local government, as well as from the private sector and from the community as well. They're all the major stakeholders in terms of championing cycling. So yes, it is very much possible, but do you really need political will, great design, and great planning as well? So as we all know, if we don't plan things properly, it might end up hurting more than it would help benefiting the road users. So yes, it's very much possible here in the Philippines.
But Eli, how do cycling benefit us? Ano yung benefit na nabibigay ng cycling to us, people living in the city, and at the same time, sa city itself? Meron bang ganon? Or parang it's just something that people use to move from one place to another?
Yeah, cycling helps actually everything in terms of health, business, leisure, just being social with everyone. It helps bring back people to being people again, being able to converse with one another, being able to see the city in a different way. Well, I guess in a more natural way than we are used to seeing it, which is usually inside your car. So as we all know the health benefits of cycling, it improves your health and also in the long run, your health. And then especially for businesses, as you can see here, cyclists actually go to businesses more. The turnover rate for cyclists is a lot faster than vehicles. So you get more customers, you get more loyal customers, and at the same time, you enhance their experience of being either in a restaurant, going to a shop, going to a mall or open areas. It really gives a different experience and something that's more memorable than just parking your car and then going about it from that way. Other benefits, it all stems down from there, from health, from business. and it trickles down all the way down to the family, to how we how our families are being brought up nowadays. Uh, I guess, yeah, from there, and then it helps out all the way.
Yeah, and it became very evident, especially during the first few months and the first 2 years of the community quarantine. Pero ngayon, things are slowly getting back to parang pre-pandemic times, but of course, with certain restrictions and health guidelines. So, ang question ko naman will be directed to Arts, kasi you're very much interested with urban design. So now that everything is trying to go back to normal, and now we have bike lanes, ganyan. So yung question ko would be, uh, can biking still be suitable with how our roads and environments are designed? Kasi parang people are saying na pinilit lang yung mga bike lanes during the pandemic, and now that everything's normal, bumabalik na yung mga offices, nagka-car na yung mga tao, pwede na siyang tanggalin daw. What can you say about this?
I think at the core of it, from the perspective of an urban designer, of a space designer, parang kailangan tingnan natin lagi yung core na we're always designing for people, and they're not really just places. Yung streets natin aren't just like concrete that you pour and then you just leave for cars to pass by. Dapat talaga tingnan natin paano ba magbe-benefit most yung tao with the streets. I mean, majority of our cities are streets. And we experience the streets whenever we go from point A to point B. And we always look at it as a very transit thing, nadadaanan mo lang. We don't look at them as places na parang ganito. So, parang coming from pre-pandemic, I'm part of a creative community sa Escolta that does some things like the block party. So parang yung energy before na parang people walk the streets, nakikita mo sila having fun with people and then eating and appreciating the place more, asking ano ba yung heritage ng Escolta. We need to develop our streets for people, and I think mag-trickle down from there yung idea na we should always partition yung streets natin more for the experience of people and not just for like mobility or movement ng cars. So yun, pre-pandemic, without the pandemic, or after the pandemic, they should always be designed for people, and kasama na dun yung pag-design ng streets for bikes. And parang in the context of how it affects naman retail, we've seen more interest in street-facing retail establishments. More restaurants now are looking for alfresco areas. Dati parang they would want to be boxed in malls in here in Makati or in sa BGC. Pero now naghahanap sila.
Spaces.
Yeah, naghahanap sila. May drop-off ba nearby? Saan tatambay yung mga Grab riders when people go with bikes? Saan sila magpa-park? They're asking these questions now. And that's one good thing that na-highlight nitong past 2 years, na-highlight na hindi lang vehicles yung kailangan nating i-design for whenever we design retail also. So,
Yes, I agree. And very much different talaga yung experience pre-pandemic and during this pandemic. So, Ro, as someone who used to commute using public transport and an electric kick scooter, and now during the pandemic, nagsimula ka ng magbike, I'd like to know, ano ba yung experience mo before and yung experience mo now, the changes that's here on our roads?
Specifically on our roads?
Yeah, on how you move around the city.
Okay. Let's start with when I was commuting. So I would commute from Mandaluyong to BGC, which is 4 kilometers. In the morning, it would take me up to 2 hours or even more, depending on how long the train would take, and then depending on how long the BGC bus would take. And then there are 2 kinds of BGC buses. I don't know if it's changed since then, but back then, there were 2 kinds of BGC buses. The really ugly one that could pass EDSA, and then the really nice one that would pass McKinley. As a commuter, you wanted the ugly one because it was faster.
Yeah.
So that was...
It was faster, yung ugly
It
one.
was faster because it could
Okay.
pass EDSA. McKinley is just choked with cars. And take note, walang bike lane dun, so the traffic was not caused by that. And then going home, I tried taking the train a couple times. The worst experience was it took me 3 hours to get to the platform.
To get to the platform pa lang
Just
wala
to
pa
get to
yung
the
moving
platform.
around inside the train.
Yes. So
Wow.
it took me 3 hours to get to the platform. Pagdating doon, sira na po ang tren. Wala na pong tren na darating.
Terrible.
So I started taking Grabs home. So commute in the morning, Grab home. And that would take, the worst was also 3 hours. So that was 6 hours of my day on the road. So I got an electric kick scooter. It was a gift from my then boyfriend who didn't like picking me up na. So I got an electric kick scooter. And suddenly getting to work and back was so much more manageable. It was only 30 minutes both ways. And then I got a bike because of the pandemic. Long story why. But I started Mobile in Manila, and then a lot of the people I was interviewing were on bikes. And they were all, ma'am, mag-bike ka na lang. Ako naman na pressure, sige, bike na ako. So comparing to electric kick scooter, and it's not the same for everyone, it's a lot more fulfilling, and you see things slower. The EKS I had kasi you could go as fast as a car. So I wouldn't experience the road the same way. So in terms of how the road is different, the roads now, the cars are friendlier. I would say they're getting better. There are still a couple, we can't curse now, there are still a couple bad car drivers.
Yeah.
But for the most part, a lot of them seem to know how to give way a little more. And sorry, can I just add to I was taking notes, just add to what Eli and Art has already said.
Yeah, go ahead.
The benefits of cycling. So Alt Mobility did a study on the hard numbers of how biking affects the economy, or at least stores. Stores that cater to cyclists, let's say they just accommodate, they give one parking slot to bikes. They can earn up to 25% more revenue.
Yes, that's correct. Imagine, no, kung yung mga bikes dito, lahat sila tig-isang kotse. Parang, I don't think na makaka-accommodate ng as much customers as possible.
Yes, and then let's take note that cars in Manila have an average occupancy rate of 1.2. So we can generally assume that every car that we see on the road is occupied by only one person.
It's full, correct.
Yeah. So yun. Next question.
So, before ba, you think, hindi ka nagbabike, diba? Do you think it's difficult to bike during that time? At least in your area, Mandaluyong, Taguig. Is it hard to bike before than now? Kasi parang, why isn't that hindi ka nagbike during that time?
Why I didn't bike before? Okay, so this is something that is also an issue or a challenge that a lot of women face. I work in a corporate job, and I am expected to look a certain way. And some places have very strict dress codes, like some companies even specify how many inches your heel should be, and specify how much makeup you should have. It was kind of like that, so I didn't know how I was going to go from super sweaty and in sneakers to what I needed to be for the job. So that was one barrier. Another was I was scared about biking with cars. Those are the biggest hurdles that I had to face.
Yeah, I think yung mga cities like in Central Metro Manila, it's very difficult before to bike. Manila, Quezon City, Makati, Taguig. Pero there's this one city na napansin ko na ever since before pa nung pandemic, it's been a cycling city, which is Valenzuela. So we have King here. Okay, so King, di ba, parang Valenzuela has been a cycling city even before. But during this pandemic, you've adapted also to some rules. Halimbawa, yung MacArthur Highway ng Valenzuela ngayon, they have bike lanes. So I wanna know, how is it, how did you adapt during the community quarantine? And what are the next steps that you're planning to do in Valenzuela as we move forward ngayong pandemic? Can you tell us more? And can you tell us more kung bakit naging cycling city ba yung Valenzuela?
Actually, yung original na poblasyon namin, yung Polo, ito yung daan dati, nung wala pa yung MacArthur Highway. If you're from Manila, going to Bulacan, dito ka dumadaan, ito yung Paubando, yung MH Del Pilar Road. And yung lugar na ito, medyo napag-iwanan siya, and since katabi siya ng Manila Bay, prone siya sa baha dati. Kaya yung part na yun ng Valenzuela, yung mga dating ine-expect natin, dapat may mga lumang bahay na bato, na wala na yun kasi yung mga may-ari ng bahay, niremodel na, nag-reconstruct na ng mga bahay na gawa sa concrete, tsaka mas matataas na. At dahil prone sa baha yung lugar dati, ito yung mas common dito sa public transport ay pedicab kaysa sa tricycle. Kasi hindi naapektuhan masyado ng baha yung matataas na pedicab. Kaya mas sanay yung mga tao doon sa old population namin na magbisikleta. Doon naman sa eastern part ng Valenzuela, andito yung mga factory. Kaya ito yung mode of transport ng mga factory workers. And there are many factories na merong bicycle parking talaga kasi ito yung pinaka-common na gamitin ng mga factory workers. But only since nitong pandemic lang, nung nilagyan na ng bicycle lane ng MacArthur Highway, doon na naglabasan lahat ng gumagamit. Kasi dati, it's very dangerous na magbike sa MacArthur Highway. Imagine we're an industrial hub, and kami yung lagusan simula Metro Manila to Bulacan and Pampanga. So lahat ng truck na ayaw gumamit ng NLEX, MacArthur Highway lahat ang daan. So yun ang kasabay mo sa kalye dati.
Sobrang wild nga sa MacArthur Highway because of the trucks eh. And ngayon, naglagay kayo ng bike lane and it's a strictly for space for bicycles na nanghuhuli talaga yung Valenzuela. I'd like to know, how did the people react towards this, yung receptions? And kasi like what you said, it's a pathway ng Region 3 and Metro Manila. So even visitors, paano sila nag-react dun sa strict implementations of bike lanes sa MacArthur Highway?
Actually, with MacArthur Highway kasi, kinategorize ko sa dalawang gumagamit niyan eh. Yung mga taga Valenzuela talaga, at saka yung hindi. Yung talagang tumatawid lang doon. So, syempre kapag hindi ka sanay sa Valenzuela, medyo hostile yung yung reaction mo. Ang kainaman lang nito, even prior to the bike lane and prior to the pandemic, naka-NCAP na yung MacArthur Highway for traffic violations.
NCAP,
No contact apprehension siya sa important segments ng MacArthur Highway. Meron ng may camera dyan na nakatutok. 24/7 yan, 7 days a week. Hindi ka na kailangan i-flag ng traffic enforcer. Minimail ka na lang ng violation mo. And you have to settle
Parang
that in time.
surprise na lang na parang, uy, surprise,
Oo.
may violation ka.
Tsaka may website naman, so you can check kung
Kung may huli ba.
kung may huli ka na.
Yan.
Yan. Tapos, kaya nung inadapt yung sa bike lane rules, medyo sanay na yung tao, nalaman nila na magiging part ng NCAP, yung pag-i-enforce ng bicycle lane rules, ready na sila. Medyo hostile sa una, lahat naman, di ba? Pero everyone realized na it's for everyone's safety din. At mas maraming nakuha namin positive feedback dun sa mga gumagamit kaysa dun sa mga nagreklamo.
Yan, tama. Kaya gusto ko yung mga government officials who are very much active into putting up bike lanes. So yung mga mayor na very active in promoting cycling infrastructure. But let's face it, yung cycling infrastructure, hindi lang siya limited to bike lanes. It's also yung mga bike parking, yung siguro bike showers in different businesses. Like recently, a very controversial news na yung isang lifestyle hub in the south nag-impose ng bike parking na 30 pesos, but at the same time, may kita mo na the bike parking is practically bad. Hindi talaga siya, it's not worth your money. And recently, sa Quezon City, yung isa sa mga favorite kong malls doon, they charge 30 pesos for cyclists. And walang bike rack, you're with the motorbikes, it's outdoor, although may security guard to secure your bikes. But they also charge yung mga delivery riders, yung mga delivery bikers. So what they do is they just park their bikes outside, lockless. So parang natatakot ako for them eh. For you guys, in terms of businesses, how did you, it was mentioned earlier eh, pero let's expound on this. How did businesses adapt? Ikaw, Arts, parang as a designer, meron mong may mga narinig ka ba or have you designed spaces na, let's make our businesses bike-friendly because there's a demand now for bikes?
One of the places that I think adapted well that we worked with before was yung The Alley, yung Caravan Plaza. they're very active in parang putting out at least bike parking, dedicating a small part of the parking area to drop off ng mga Grab riders and mga Lala Move riders, and also naglagay din sila ng mga bike parking there. That was before the pandemic, so the alley naman is very
Go lang.
okay lang.
So yung Caravan, it's one of the nicest places din na napuntahan ko in Metro Manila. It's in Makati din, sa Chino Roses extension.
Sa Chino Roses, yes.
And I think those people who are working dun sa Caravan are also bike commuters, so
Yeah.
they benefit from it too,
They
aside
benefit from it also. So yun, nag-adapt sila kasi the place was obviously designed before the pandemic. One of the over the course of the pandemic naman, nakita namin na mas marami ng mga entrepreneurs looking for, yun nga, what I mentioned kanina, mga storefront spaces. Isa sa mga factors na kailangan nilang makonsider is may drop-off ba malapit, accessible ba to sa mga Grab riders, sa delivery, kasi karamihan nga ng mga retail over the past 2 years, parang cloud kitchen sila. They mostly function online and parang take orders online and then just ship everything through mga riders din. So ngayon, consideration na siya. Before pa lang sila mag-start, maganap ng space, hinanap na nila. Like there's a space in Alabang that has this parking area also beside. Parang very important na may space for Grab riders and delivery groups to wait and para mahintay yung orders outside. So parang very considered na siya even before they look for spaces and when we design the spaces.
Oh, that's nice to hear. And I think it's very important din eh. Like for example, ako as a cyclist, parang iniisip ko lagi na, itong business ba napupuntahan ko? Meron ba siyang bike parking? And another consideration is, are they nice to those people who deliver their service, yung service nila, yung food nila using bikes? Kasi let's face it, during this pandemic, these delivery bikers made them survive, di ba? And help even the people around na makakuha ng pagkain na hindi lumalabas ng bahay. So Ro and Eli, as consumers, may napansin ba kayo na changes or how do businesses react towards bicycles? Or is it friendlier now compared before, or nagiging mas okay ba yung mga businesses ngayon as we go along this community quarantine?
I think it depends on the business. So a lot of businesses have started adapting. SM has I wouldn't say they have the most spectacular parking, but at least they have guarded bike parking. Podium also has better parking. And there are individual restaurants that have started building bike parking specifically. But there are still a lot of businesses that have decided that cyclists aren't worth their time and cyclists have no purchasing power. So yeah, I think it depends on the business that you're looking at.
Sorry, for Eli din, gusto ko lang mag-add, are you always looking for bike parking or are you just looking for a bike-friendly location for your bikes?
Well, obviously, bike parking is number one. Like, if there's a great way or a secure way or a secure area to park your bike, obviously that would influence my decision of where to go. But actually, just having a bike-friendly area, actually just having a wall, let's say like over here, we have people sitting down, and at the same time we see our bikes parked over there. You know, as long as we can see them, as long as we know that the street is safe, and yeah, the more eyes there are on the street, the better, because that's natural security for everyone. And as long as the businesses are open to that, I think that's a good first step for them to be open to providing more infrastructure for bikes, like those makeshift bike parkings that would already do, as long as we could see them. And I think that's the best part of having, let's say, alfresco dining or even closing off a street, is that you have so many people that could see what's happening on the street. And at the same time, by doing this, businesses that are like what Art said, that moved their business a bit onto the street or onto the sidewalk or to the open area, it actually brings in a lot of customers, and I think restaurants have seen that. It's different walking and seeing restaurants compared to driving and seeing restaurants. I think that's why BGC, people love BGCs because when you walk there, you actually see the menu, you see the ambience of the area, and it gets you hooked in a lot faster than if you're going 40, 50 kilometers an hour, right? So I think business have seen it and they are starting to adapt, let's say over here, like this area. And yeah, the purchasing power, like what Rowhe said, actually, if you don't realize, you'll actually go to 3 restaurants already by now if you stay here for like
Correct,
1 hour or 2. And that's 3 local businesses that you already helped. And the more that restaurants and retails and other businesses start to see that, they'll see that, you know, a place that attracts more people also brings in more business.
King, sa Valenzuela ba, yung mga places ba where bicycles are encouraged, are they doing well? Or same lang with other places like the malls, like those places na walang bike infrastructure, bike parking?
Actually, in Valenzuela, we can proudly say na mas maraming tao sa parks namin kaysa sa malls.
Oh,
In
that's
fa-
good. That's good
Yeah.
to hear.
You can see it in pictures, you can see it when you go there, na mas mataas yung foot traffic at mas maraming bumibili sa labas kaysa sa mga nasa loob ng malls. One proven formula kasi namin yung sa Tagalog Fishing Village. I think a lot of cyclists have already been there. And yung next project namin, yun din yung ano namin, yun yung pamantayan namin ngayon. So each time we try to propose to close down a street and to pedestrianize it, yun Tagalog ang ano namin, paradigm namin. Because ang dami niyang kinater na market doon sa Tagalog. I think you've been there, di ba? May 3 malaking restaurant.
Yeah, 3 times.
Tapos yung kahabaan niya, maliliit yan. May mga tusok-tusok, may mga lugawan, may pares. So lahat ng sectors ng society kayang iserve ng Tagalog Fishing Village. So kung mas medyo social yung hanap mo, doon ka sa isang malaking resto. And these are all bike-friendly sites. Lahat itong businesses dito. And nung nag-start yung Tagalog, I think there were only 8 sari-sari stores dun sa lugar. And now, 5 big restaurants, yung medium-sized, mga 10.
Wow.
Iba pa yung mga nasa household lang, yung may mga tusok-tusok dyan, tsaka merienda. And it has generated more jobs than we projected nung una. Siguro mga 100 jobs na yung na-generate niyan. Doon pa lang sa area na yun.
So places that encourage bicycles, hindi lang nagbe-benefit yung mga existing businesses. It also inspire other people to come up with their own and open spaces for their own livelihood. And lalo na ngayon, sobrang daming nagbibisikleta. There's this notion na yung pagbabike panlalaki, and even before, it's a male-dominated lifestyle. But we've seen now na madaming women and people from other genders are cycling. Why do you think na nagkaroon ng increase ng bikers sa Metro Manila? Is it because of the infrastructure? Is it because it's just popular? What can you say about this?
Well, di ba sabi nga nila, no, if you build it, they will come. No, kami dati, prior to the pandemic, isa lang ang plaza sa Valenzuela. No one believed that an open space project is worth the cost ng taxpayers' money. But since we built the People's Park doon sa tabi ng City Hall, yan na, nag-generate na siya ng foot traffic doon sa area pa lang na yon. And we built more parks, hindi na decongest yung tao sa People's Park. Humila pa ng mas marami. In fact, taga Malabon, Caloocan, sa amin namamasyal, may kawayan eh. Humihila pa siya ng mas maraming tao. Investment in open spaces, it helps a lot and it generates more taxes in terms ng business permits ng mga nakapalibot dun sa lugar. And I think na government should hold on to this infrastructure. Nakakalungkot, di ba, nung bumalik na yung karamihan sa public transport natin, nag-alert level 1 na, there are some LGUs na natin papangalanan, di ba? inalis na nila yung bike lane.
Correct, tama,
Diba?
tama.
Pero
Unfortunately.
ito na naman, tumataas naman ng presyo ng crudo ngayon. And we see the need na kailangan na naman. So, ngayon, naano natin na long-term solution ng ang pagkakaroon ng bike lane. Huwag na natin siyang tanggalin dyan. We should let people adapt into a lifestyle that promotes cleaner transportation, noise-free. And of course, it's cheaper.
Noise-free, kagaya ng nangyaring
Wrong.
pag-iingay ng isang motorista sa gilid ng Esteban. Yes, Ro, would you like to add something?
They just passed the mic to me, but sige. No, I think one of the reasons why why we're seeing a more diverse population when it comes to cycling,
Yeah.
the pandemic played a huge role. If I don't know how many here were affected by it, but at the start of the pandemic, especially the first lockdown, there was no public transportation at all. And we still had a lot of frontliners. We still had a lot of people who had to go to work for banks, for hospitals, for supermarkets. And if you didn't have a car, you either slept where you worked, or you walked like hours and hours, or you biked. So that kind of opened the door. And when people started saying that, hey, there's a girl on a bike, hey, there's whatever gender on a bike, hey, there's someone who's professional on a bike, that opened even more doors. And then to the point of, I think it's important that, just adding to what King said earlier, with Tagalog Village, you have businesses that cater to all economic backgrounds, and that's something I think a lot of places are also learning, that it's not, when the pandemic started, people thought that cyclists were a certain population and demographic.
Yes, correct.
And they didn't understand that cyclists can come from any background. So yeah, that's something that has changed also in the last 2 years or so.
How about you, Arts? May observation ka ba? Why is it that more people are biking now? And do you think it's a fad? Mawawala ba to?
I don't think mawawala siya. Kasi parang, like what Rose said, we were all forced to kind of be more creative about how we move around in the city. So parang even ako before, nung nag-start talaga yung pandemic, doon lang ako, I would be someone that you would say is a pandemic biker. Parang doon lang talaga ako na nagkaroon ng idea na okay, pwede pala ako mag-bike kasi I live in Caloocan and then my work is in Escolta. Dati iniisip ko na ang layo niya.
Caloocan to Manila.
Yeah, Caloocan to
Wow,
Manila
mga
is a-
isang rugged na kalsada.
Yeah. But yung first na route na tinake ko was Avenida, LRT. Medyo natakot ako kasi ang daming jeep, ang daming mga buses nung mga nag-start na ulit pumasok yung mga commuters. But na-realize ko na kaya naman pala siya. And I think maraming tao talaga yung I guess nag-iba yung perspective nila about biking in the city. Na it isn't something that should be done recreationally. Dapat talaga ma-encourage siya kasi mas na-enable more of our people to move around regardless of if you own a car or not. Parang kahit sino pwedeng magkaroon ng bike. Another thing is, one thing that I hope na ma-retain sa atin is, we're seeing more active storefronts now, like Yardstick and most of the restaurants dito sa Makati. And we're seeing that they're slowly starting to be more aware about opening up to more, introducing more bike facilities in their establishment. So, sana mag-stick yun, and parang we hope that it would become more like a domino effect na mas marami pang ma-encourage na lessors na mag-open up ng mga ground floor establishments nila to active storefronts. Kasi it would really help to be more, for our streets to be more, I guess, lively and mas ma-communicate yung need for more bike-inclusive infrastructure.
Yes, Eli, ikaw, would you like to...
Oh yeah, just to add, actually I really hope that it continues, but then it will take a lot of effort also from the local and national government, because we all know that the community, well, majority of us, the 88% of Metro Manila that doesn't own a car, we want our spaces back. We want our streets back. Even way back before, the streets weren't meant just for mobility, but it was meant for an area where people can congregate. It was our fireplace where people can meet other people, share stories, share experiences, and I think it will take a good effort, not just in terms of planning, but in terms of culture, especially in the planning sector. Um, People on bikes actually when we do our planning process, before we would always focus on the rush hour. So that's like 8 to 9 a.m. in the morning, and then you have your 5 to 6, 5 to 7 at night.
Parang doon lang nakafocus
Yeah, doon lang
dati.
nakafocus. And with that, you only get the usual bike to home, home to work commutes. And we forget about all those trips in the middle, going to the grocery, going to your friend's house, going to the restaurant, and all those other mini trips in the middle, which actually a lot of women do more. So there are actually more women on the road than we actually think. And we've always been planning from the home to work commute, which serves a lot of men. And that should change because women do a lot more trips than men, actually, if you combine them. So a city or a transport system built for women, built for the old, built for the young, is the city and the streets that we have to strive for. If not, we would have more streets like we have right now. So it needs, a change in mindset, and it's a good start. The pandemic was a good catalyst, so hopefully it would continue.
Yeah, parang a street that's very inclusive for everyone, for PWDs, for
Yes.
children, for women, and for basically everyone, and have safe spaces then on the road. Do you want to add something, Ro?
So we've talked a lot about the business effects, and I think that's something that everybody who's at the street right now we're already familiar with how bikes are good for business, bikes are good for the environment. But let's talk about something I really want to raise awareness over this. Let's talk about noise pollution. Noise
Yeah.
pollution is horrendous in the city, and it's something that I am very passionate about because I live right next to a major thoroughfare. I live right next to Meralco Avenue. And it's so bad there are times when my husband and I, when we're talking, we have to stop because there's a truck and we can't hear each other. And it was so bad we had to install noise. We had to soundproof our bedroom because if not, we were sleeping with
With trucks, ano?
we were sleeping with earplugs. That was how bad it is. But
No
the thing is,
way.
we are not unique. This is an experience of a lot of people. And you think that noise isn't a big deal, but it is. One is it affects hearing loss. Two, it increases your chances of getting cardiovascular diseases, which in the long run affects the health and productivity of a population. Three, it also affects productivity, like the cognitive, the brain function of a person living in a noisy area is a lot lower than someone living in a quiet area. So this is something that does not get discussed a lot, but increasing cyclists on the road will definitely decrease noise and will decrease all these risks and increase productivity, and in the long term also increase our output and our economic savings because we don't have a population suffering from connected health issues.
Yeah, ako I remember, I live next to a major street 2 na dun nagpapass yung mga trucks. And during the pandemic, I'm parang at peace kasi during the early months of the pandemic, I'm at peace kasi walang dumadaan na sasakyan eh. So, I can work at home. Before, I can't imagine working inside my room kasi ang ingay talaga ng mga sasakyan. Pero ngayon, sobrang dami na nila, and sometimes I just want to go out of the house kasi it's just stressful because of all of these noises. So speaking of cycling and the city, yung bikes ba, do they influence the city or yung city yung nag-i-influence sa cycling culture ng mga tao? Kasi parang as Eli mentioned, the local and national governments should be active about this. Sino ba yung nagko-control? Can bikers control what local and national government do to our roads, or ang nagdi-dictate pa rin na to at the end of the day are the officials?
Actually, it
And
pays
coming
to,
from a government official? Okay.
insider story. I think it pays to lobby for it.
It pays to lobby for
yeah.
more people to go and
to campaign
Yeah.
for infrastructure in government, no? Para mas maging ano siya, galing talaga sa community. So in the case of Valenzuela, I think we have two active groups, cycling groups, but most of these people are actually recreational cyclists, no? In most places, mas marami yung groups talaga na mas diverse yung membership. Like, may mga nagsacycle talaga to work, and they do it on a daily basis. Meron namang mga local cyclists na doon lang talaga sila umiikot sa lugar. And it pays to have these people on board kasi they can influence decision making. Well, in government, of course, everything is influenced by politics. You've got to have someone on the city council to lobby for you. Then you have to have the chief executive on board. No, in our case, yung mayor namin is a car-dependent person because of the nature of his work. That's why I'm very surprised yung support dun sa pagkakaroon ng bike lane. Ganun na lang. No? But in the end, I realized that the executive wants the city to be more livable. Hindi lang yung gaya dati, pre-pandemic na pupunta ka lang sa Valenzuela para matulog dahil doon ka nakatira. Tapos wala ka nang pwede ibang gawin doon. We want to transform the city into something more livable, more active, and more alive with all the people going out.
Speaking of lobbying, ayan, si Eli is part of Move as One Coalition and one of the organizations who's very active in talking with the government and asking people to create better streets and roads for cyclists. Eli, do you think na yung movements like this, do they really make a change? Do they really prove na may voice na nakikinig or parang may tengang nakikinig sa mga boses na kagaya ninyo?
Oh yeah, for sure. There needs to be the community. The community needs to be involved in this. And yeah, Move Us One as well as others like Out Mobility PH, they have been lobbying for this for a long time, and especially during this pandemic, and it has affected so much. Let's take away the numbers and everything, but just the culture, just the pressure that these mobility groups give to the local national government, to private sectors, it shows that this is what the people want. And with that, the government, is more or less forced to also hear what the people have to say. And it actually shows that, there are a lot of benefits that come to it. And sometimes it takes a group of people, maybe one or two, just to start it, and then it would grow. Because, what we're doing naman here isn't meant to benefit or give money to us, to the mobility groups. But it's just to show awareness, to show that how much better a city could be. So it's coming from a very pure and innocent, what do you call this? Not mindset, but then like a place that we want our city to be. And a lot of government officials, a lot of private companies see that, they're doing it just not to make the city better, but to also make the local, national government and private companies better as well. So it's to help everyone. And yeah, they've been doing such an amazing work. Hopefully, get to influence more. But as of now, yes, they have affected the active mobility scene in more ways than we can have imagined.
Yeah. Nakakatuwa nga yung group ninyo because you're working for free and at the same time, you make things possible. Arts, you wanna add something?
I wanted to add lang it really should be a discussion between government and people kasi most of the time government officials or parang yung mga nasa engineering ng mga city LGUs natin don't really know what is happening on the ground. They can be sometimes very detached about what the real situation is. And it really helps to have events like this na mag-gather together yung community para ma-drum up yung noise just to kind of pull together this energy, I guess, to communicate na, hey, cities can be like this too. Parang this street can be pedestrianized, this street can be as lively as this. It doesn't have to be something that happens once a month lang. Parang it helps that people are hosting events like this para mas makita nila kasi they can sometimes be more visual about things. Parang hindi sila maniniwala na people will come. So if you see na parang okay, ang dami palang pumupunta na ganito and they go here by bike. So we need to change how we design our street. So it helps to have a forward and back communication between the people na talagang affected of the design and yung government that actually mandates yung changes.
Tama, parang I remember people are saying, ang ingay naman na itong mga advocates na to, ang ingay naman na itong mga taong nagre-reklamo na to. But at the end of the day, may nagagawa, may nakikinig, at merong nangyayaring better things for the community and for the city. And at the same time, it's not just people who are proactive in ranting online or going to different organizations to showcase your concerns to to people in power, to the government, to those infrastructure who can make a change. Halimbawa na lang, I remember different campaigns that happened during this pandemic. Yung Share the City campaign. Mobile in Manila has made the Grand Fondo to prove here in Esteban that the street is for the people and not just for cars, that it's worth sharing. And for the women, yung during the week, yung Violence Against Women Month, yung campaign sa yun, I think it's doing a good job in addressing the voices and yung mga hinaing ng mga tao. Ro, as someone who organizes things like this and very active in promoting advocacies, why do you think it's important for people to join and for other people like you and those people who are able to organize?
So connected to what they were saying, that it's important to engage with the government. So I also volunteer for Alt Mobility, and one of the biggest issues that we're coming against isn't the lack of support from the government officials. Government officials are supportive, but there's no public clamor for what we are pushing. So of course, their attention is going to go to whatever the people are talking about the most, because that's what their constituents want. Politicians deal in, their currency is votes. So if not a lot of people are talking about bike infrastructure, not a lot of people are talking about proper transportation, they have no incentive to really prioritize and put funds into that. Also because their constituents won't understand why allocations are going to that. So it's important, for me, it's been important to raise awareness and get the community active so that we kind of get used to raising our voices. And it's important to keep this conversation going because, as you said, it's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil.
Yes. Okay, King, you would like to add something?
To add to what Rose said, I think it has to translate to a much more permanent policy. So, kumbaga hindi lang siya enough na may executive order ka na hawak. At the very least, kailangan may city ordinance ka. And maliban doon, you need to have a very active community involved dun sa decision-making process, dun sa design, para sila yung mag-aalaga later on. Politicians will come and go, tama si Rowhe. But if the community is involved with the project, they will take care of it, they will fight for it, tooth and nail. And they can lobby for more infrastructure like that. And also, di ba kapag ka na-institutionalize mo kasi, you can program more funds to maintain the cycling lane. So for example, all the violations na pwedeng mangyari dun sa cycling lane na yon, pwede mapunta dun sa maintenance niya. So umiikot lang siya. Yan. Kasi yun ang laging tanong kapag sa government, di ba? Where will we get the funds for it? Yan. So kasama sa community involvement, yung pag-identify mo kung saan pwedeng kunin yon.
Another thing that's inspiring is that yung mga different LGUs in Metro Manila, nagkakaroon sila ng parang pasiklaban especially during the first year of the pandemic na okay, kailangan maganda yung bike lanes natin. And then eventually, best practice are adapted by different cities as well. So si Ro, she's from Pasig, si Arts, Caloocan, but you're working in Manila. Si Eli from San Juan, and you're from Valenzuela. Do you think, what's the best cycling projects na ginawa ng city ninyo that other cities can adapt and what are the things na pwede pang i-improve ng city ninyo or saan yung pagkukulang na meron pa sila? Go, Eli, ikaw daw magsimula.
San Juan, you can do better. but they have been. I know San Juan, that Ortigas section there, they were one of the first ones to put up a really good protected bike lane in the area using bollards. Sad to say, medyo nawala after maybe a few months. You know, there were
Binangga.
accidents. Yes, binangga.
Binangga at hindi na binalik.
Yes, there would be bollards down on the sides, and it didn't get replaced until maybe a few weeks ago. I'm not sure. I don't think those were that expensive. Maybe it has something to do with funding. But that was a really good start that San Juan was able to do.
And inspired many other cities to do as well.
Yes. It just shows na, because Ortigas covers a lot of cities, right? So just by showing that this is how it could look like in our section, it could also look like in other sections as well. Something that they can improve on. We all know about the Green Hills active playground, which is neither a playground or neither is it active. It was during the first day. But then, yeah, they placed it along on the left side around Green Hills Shopping Center. What's hard is that because a lot of logistics vehicles drop off their materials there, and at the same time, right now, it actually became a paid parking. So
A paid parking for cars?
Yes. So if you know in
What?
front of Theater Mall, you know that active playground lane that they have there. Nagiging paid parking na rin siya. So nawawala. And I think, more political will is needed. There is a good start to it, so we just have to capitalize on it. And yes, we could learn from a lot of other cities, especially from Valenzuela. You're saying green hills, pero wala naman green. Diba?
Oh yeah.
So, and a lot of our parks are
Full
inside
of concrete.
and inside public subdivisions. So a lot of parking, especially in the Green Hills area, is underutilized. You have your 3-4 story parking lots, and the last two upper floors usually aren't even filled up. But then you have this at-grade parking, in front of the shopping mall that you could easily transform into an active area like this. Put up stalls, put up trees, and everything like that. And that would bring more business. So hopefully, in the future, we could build upon what we already started in San Juan.
What I like about San Juan as well, yung mga nasa looban niya na mga businesses, it encourages people who rides bicycles.
Yes.
Diba?
It's-
We have, halimbawa, yung Lagrima, yung
LDEP.
other, El Deposito, yeah, correct. And other businesses, cafes na people
Yeah.
go kasi alam nilang their bikes are gonna be safe and it's gonna be
Yes.
convenient for them.
It's very quiet roads, very calm roads. Yun lang, may daming maahon.
Yeah, correct.
Pero
Hindi na natin ma-change yung mga
Yes,
ahon na yan.
yes. But you gotta work for if you're gonna eat, diba? Or you want your alcohol. So it's nice to get that feel of that other parts of San Juan and bring it more to the more commercialized areas to show that it can be done in both. Yeah.
Okay, in Pasig, Caloocan, meron bang mga favorite kayong improvement in terms of cycling and some things that you think you can improve on?
Hirap naman ang tanong mo, nandyan yung nagpa-plan eh.
Yeah. Oo nga, and dyan yung nagpa-plan ng Pasig. Pero baka makinig siya, right?
Hindi, alam na niya. Baka mag-away kami later. I think Pasig is, or at least the transportation office is doing the best that they can, but they have to work with a lot of other parts of the Pasig government. Kaya medyo, next, Caloocan na lang.
Okay. How about Caloocan or Manila? Especially
Uh,
Manila businesses. I'm from Manila and I could say it's kind of stressful to bike there compared to other cities.
It is very stressful kasi parang yung mayor, yung yorme natin, medyo very temporary mag-isip lagi. When the whole biking, yung pag-bike ng mga tao, boom, biglang nagkaroon siya ng mga bike lanes na yung mga parang movable concrete pop-up na na bike lanes niya. And then you would see na hindi siya kept properly. You would see na parang natutumba yung iba, sometimes nagiging impediment pa siya sa mga bikers.
Yeah, yung sa Taft, medyo
Sa may Taft, medyo
umaahas yung
gumaganon-ganon
bike
na siya
lanes
eh.
doon eh.
So, we hopefully magkaroon talaga ng more concrete, longer-term solutions. Yung pag-put in place ng infrastructure shouldn't be temporary. It shouldn't be something, although pop-up bike lanes help kind of parang jumpstart the whole movement, it should always translate to something more permanent.
Yes.
And yun yung, I guess, something that could be improved on sa Manila, yung continuity talaga ng mga projects, sana matuloy-tuloy siya and sana magkaroon ng mas longer standing na mga infrastructure.
Tama. And sana people in the offices will become more friendly towards bikes. Halimbawa yung sa City Hall sa mga nirereklamo ko ever since is bawal yung bike sa Lagos nila, sa underpass, which is sad na daanan siya ng mga tao, daanan siya ng parang bicycles can conveniently go there and cross from Intramuros to City Hall side. Yeah, to go around kasi ang layo ng iikutan mo eh. And it's quite dangerous as well. Valenzuela na, I know maraming cycling infrastructure sa Valenzuela, but and as someone from the office, do you think may kailangan pa kayong improve or best practices from other cities that nakita nyo na pwede na ginaya or parang na-inspire yung Valenzuela to do the same?
Actually, as much as we want to have a protected bike lane sa MacArthur Highway, we cannot. Kasi talagang yun na yung limits nung kaya namin gawin eh. But what we discovered was that the NCAP was very effective. If you've been to Valenzuela, siguro maninibago ka na wala talaga nagpapasok ng gulong doon sa loob ng guhit ng bike lane. So sobrang takot nila na ma-fine sila. And may mga areas kami na ina-identify, like our second upcoming project in sa Fatima, we plan to close it down permanently to motorized traffic to encourage more inner communities na magkaroon ng nagawing community space ang mga dating roads. No? We also plan to put up cycling paths para sa mga students going into the university. So nagbabranch out lahat. Ang pinaka-spine namin, yung MacArthur Highway, you can go from 3 different cultural and tourism sections ng city. Nakakonekta yan doon sa bike lane na yon and major educational institutions. Actually, madalas ako makapunta ng Manila, no? At nakakapanghinayang, ang daming roads na pwedeng gawing matinong bike lane talaga. Ang dami kasi sa Manila na mga 3 or more lanes ang kalye. Pwede mo i-convert yung isang buong lane into a much wider pedestrian sidewalk. Yeah. O kaya bike lane na may puno, diba? But what's happening is that walang habas na road widening, and then you cut the trees, and then lalagyan mo lang ng ramp down. Kaya nakakapanghinayang.
Okay. I think this would be my last question for the group. So, personally, kayo, do you think meron pang i-improve ang Metro Manila? I'm sure meron pang i-improve. But what are your wishes na sana mangyari, at least something urgent this year, or ano yung hiling nyo now that we're getting into kind of pre-pandemic traffic and lifestyle? Ikaw, Eli?
Okay, yeah. If something fast that we could do, actually, it's just more community involvement. We get more communities like this here, Esteban. I'm sure in Manila there's a lot, in San Juan there's a lot, in Pasig there's a lot. A lot of the smaller communities, let's try to work better to have more human-centered roads, human-centered streets. Because, the government obviously would focus on their side, but in terms of the local streets in the area, I think we could do something about it. You have, tactical urbanism that you can do, bring out chairs, bring out parklets, bring out, different ways of using the street. And show your government, local government units that we could do it this way. And yeah, if there's something fast that we can do is that to get the community involved. So with that, you're creating a culture na when bike lanes come in, ready na. So we all know that, those things take time, planning takes time. So at least the culture that our communities can start with, such as this, we could start to uh, condition the minds of people who aren't yet in this culture to somewhat either join us, join, or to just be okay with it, diba? To live with it as well. So, yeah, hopefully, more communities would start to engage into activities like this. So, when the bike lanes come, which I'm sure they will naman, ready na yung community for it.
And I'd like to add, I hope, especially people here na nandito, make yourselves visible by riding your bike and posting them online. It really helps. Akala nyo wala lang, leisure ride lang, but it really helps to make ourselves visible para makita ng mga tao, those people who are in power, the government officials na, oh, merong nagbabike at meron kailangan protektahan on the road. Okay, King?
One thing kasi meron din available na funds to tap ngayong taon. I think merong pondo ang Department of Transportation for active transport in the billions of pesos, I think, just for this year. Kaya I think we should make campaigns for our local governments para itap yung pondo na yon. Kasi like what happened dun sa local government support fund last year, not all LGUs tapped into the fund. Which sayang kasi exclusively magagamit mo lang siya for open spaces and for bike lanes. Kaya sana mas magkaroon tayo ng initiative na kalampagin kasi may pondo naman. Ang kailangan lang natin, mag-rekomenda tayo ng plano kung anong gagawin sa pondo.
Tama. Kalampagin natin ang mga tao na gamitin ang pondo, huwag kurakutin. Ayun. Arts.
I think yung pinaka-importante na kailangan makip natin is yung momentum that this whole thing started. Sana wag natin sayangin yung momentum na mas aware na yung mga tao sa importance ng ng better designed streets. There's a reason why nag-adapt yung mga tao using bikes, parking kung saan nila kayang mag-park. Kasi parang may mali sa pag-design natin before. And sana hindi tayo bumalik dun sa old way of designing things. If we go back dun sa world before the pandemic, wala lang din. Parang sayang lang yung past 2 years na sana marami tayo natutunan doon sa how our cities change. Kasi yun yung natural na movement ng mga tao. And we should use that and design in the way that people adapted.
And like what you said, sana hindi nga lang temporary yung mga bagay-bagay na ginawa during the earlier parts of the pandemic. Kasi sayang talaga no? How about you, Ro?
So apart from community involvement, one thing that I would really like is if we had more consequences for cars that one hit cyclists, kill cyclists, or drive into the bike lanes. There are absolutely no repercussions right now. Like as you shared to me before, Lester, the one that killed the drunk driver that killed someone last month is now free.
Yeah, in Patero, si Ian.
Because he was allowed bail. So like cars really don't see us as people. And if they, like like through First Bike Ride and through Mobile Manila, we try to humanize cyclists as much as we can.
Yes.
But I think if that isn't working, we also have to start penalizing them. And making them realize that there are consequences to bullying us on the road or more.
Okay, maraming salamat, Ro, Arts, Michael, and Eli. Marami tayong napag-usapan today at marami rin ang nausog namin na upuan from the middle. Nandito na kami sa gilid. Maraming salamat sa mga nakinig. And guys, please, be involved in the community. Maraming salamat sa pag-join dito sa Makati Street Meet at Esteban. And hopefully, madami pang events na ganito. Hindi lang natin makita sa Makati, but also in other parts of Metro Manila. At sana, yung mga business establishments, bawiin na nila yung mga parking fees. Ayan, di ba? Lalo na yung mga may parking fees na wala namang kwentang bike parking. Di ba? Yung mga bike lanes, sana maayos na yung mga kalsada natin. And sana people would be more respectful, be kinder on the roads. Community involvement is the key. Maraming salamat, everyone. And later, meron pang panel discussion, Women in Cycling, 1 p.m. Enjoy the day, guys. Salamat, salamat. Thank you.